Final update. My teen son said, "Honestly, you're just bitter because mom upgraded." I quietly got up, took the car keys, and left. The next morning, he had no ride to school and found out who had been covering their rent. Part 2. She was furious and demanded to know why I was punishing Marcus over some teenage attitude problem. She said he was embarrassed at school and his friends were asking questions about his missing car. I told Jessica that Marcus had made it very clear he thought his mother had upgraded from me to someone better. Since he felt that way, maybe his upgraded family could handle his transportation needs instead of relying on his downgraded father. Jessica went quiet for a moment. Then she started backtracking, saying that Marcus didn't mean it that way. He was just being a dramatic teenager, and I was overreacting to normal adolescent behavior. She begged me to give him the keys back and forget the whole thing. I told Jessica that 16 was old enough to understand that words have consequences. Marcus had deliberately tried to hurt me, and succeeded. Now he could experience some natural results of his choices. Wednesday brought more frantic calls from both Jessica and Marcus. Apparently, Marcus had been getting rides from friends, but it was becoming a social issue. Kids were asking why his car had been taken away, and Marcus was running out of excuses. Jessica tried a different approach and offered to talk to Marcus about his attitude. She said she would make sure he apologized and was more respectful during future visits. She promised to monitor his behavior and shut down any David comparisons that got out of hand. I told Jessica that forced apologies weren't worth much. Marcus needed to understand on his own why his comment was inappropriate. Until he figured that out, he could keep finding alternative transportation. Thursday, Marcus called and asked if he could come to my office after school. He said he needed to talk and it was important. I told him to meet me in the lobby, and we could walk to the coffee shop next door. Marcus looked tired and frustrated when we sat down at a corner table. He started by saying he was sorry for what he'd said on Sunday. He admitted that calling me bitter and saying mom had upgraded was mean and hurtful. He asked if we could just move past it and get back to normal. I asked Marcus if he understood why those words were so hurtful. He said he knew it made me feel bad and that he shouldn't have said it, but when I pressed him for specifics, it was clear he was just apologizing to get his car back rather than genuinely understanding the impact. I told Marcus that our conversation had revealed how he really felt about our relationship. If he saw me as someone his mother had upgraded from, then maybe he didn't value what I provided as much as I thought. Perhaps some time without my support would help him gain perspective. Marcus asked what I meant by support. I told him to ask his mother about the apartment rent I'd been paying for 6 months. Maybe learning about all the ways his downgraded father was still helping would give him a new appreciation for family contributions. Marcus looked confused and said he didn't know what I was talking about. I told him that David apparently hadn't been as generous as expected with Jessica's previous obligations. Maybe Marcus should ask about who was actually covering all the expenses in his upgraded life. Friday afternoon, Jessica called in a panic. Marcus had confronted her about the rent payments, and she'd been forced to admit the truth. Now Marcus knew that his wealthy stepfather had refused to help with basic expenses while his supposedly inferior biological father had been quietly covering them. Jessica was crying and saying that Marcus felt terrible about what he'd said. He'd had no idea I was still supporting them financially and felt awful for calling me bitter when I'd been helping behind the scenes. She begged me to talk to him and work things out. I told Jessica I wasn't ready for that conversation yet. Marcus had spent months treating me like a second-class parent while I supported his family in ways he didn't even know about. Maybe he needed more time to really understand the situation. Over the weekend, Jessica sent